T-Bob mentioned it. New Orleans football, NewOrleansFootball.com as the latest article. Underhill ranks the Saints players, and he puts them in a grouping: elite, great, and very good. And one of the things that jumps out first, T, is one of the names left out of the elite status.
Yeah, so and this is compared to obviously their peers around the league, right? To make this elite grouping, you have to be among the best in the NFL at your position. Obviously, Mike Thomas, he's on the list. Ryan Ramczyk, we talk about there a guy who already it's not hyperbolic to talk about him being a like potential future Hall of Famer. Cam Jordan, the number speaks for itself. The best two-way defender in the NFL. Demario Davis at linebacker. And Nick's also working on a pretty good Davis take that I like, and we'll probably discuss in the future. But it's like, is Demario Davis the best free agent signing, maybe outside of Drew Brees, in the Sean Payton era? And there is some, if he plays like he did last year again this season, then I think there'll be no doubt to that argument. That somebody keep an eye on. Thomas Morstead, he puts in this elite category. We know about what the leg's done. He's been doing it over a decade now. And then Will Lutz. And in my opinion, every single one of these guys is inarguably top 5 at their positions. And that's where it gets a bit interesting, because he basically acknowledges, like, look, yeah, you know who's not necessarily on here? Drew Brees. And he does kind of end up putting him in there, but he basically says to him, Brees exists kind of in between that elite and great category. But interestingly, Jordy, I don't even know if it has as much to do with Brees as it does just the other guys in the NFL, because he goes on to say that he believes that Pat Mahomes and Russell Wilson, and I think I would actually back up this assertion, that they are in a tier of their own right now. That if you're talking about truly elite quarterback play, that's where they are. And then behind them, there's where Lamar Jackson, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, that's where those guys are checking in. And that's a hell of a grouping. It's a hell of a grouping, but yeah, I can see where Nick is coming from. The question that I would put to our audience, and I guess to you, Jordy, is Drew Brees a top 5 quarterback in the NFL? And for what it's worth, I still think he is. I still think he is. I think the numbers support that. So, like, even if you want to get into a bit of semantics, is the elite tier only Wilson and Mahomes? Are there others there? That's fine. You can have that conversation. But I still think Brees is a top 5 QB.
Brees, to me, feels like a great quarterback when you're talking about the classes and tiers that you have separated to me to this layout here. He does not feel elite to me anymore. The numbers of the last month of the season, the numbers would tell you that he is elite. To me, the feeling around him is not that he has that elite status anymore. I don't know how much he can push the ball down the field. I don't know how much he can beat you with his arm. As far as being from that position, I think that would be one of the criterias to be an elite quarterback in the league. When you think about Russell Wilson, when you think about Patrick Mahomes, both of those guys can beat you.
Well,
with their arms.
They can beat you in any way.
They can beat you
really,
in any way.
Those guys, yeah.
Right? And to a degree, I would still put Aaron Rodgers as an elite arm status in there.
But see, if you put Rodgers above Brees, then you're overvaluing pure arm strength, in my opinion. Like, I get it that Brees, what Mahomes and Wilson can do, just in terms of just every facet of the game, like deep ball, scrambling, extending plays, running, like whatever, they're incredible. But Rodgers, yes, while the arm strength is still unreal. I would not put Aaron Rodgers ahead of Drew Brees.
Well, that's the great debate, right? I mean, that's not only the great debate.
That's the decade team BS. Yeah. Like, there's no way, in my opinion, that Rodgers should have made it over Brees there. And yeah, Brees is not going to kill you pushing the ball downfield, but he will kill you with surgical precision and with decision-making. He still had the second highest QBR in the league last year. I believe he was third highest. No, flip those. Third QBR, second in QB rating last season. And then you add Emmanuel Sanders, you get late season Jared Cook, hopefully transitioning to this year right where he picked up. The O-line, which with McCoy and Ruiz, they could be even better this season. Yeah, Drew Brees, I think, is still a top 5 NFL quarterback.
It's an interesting debate. We'll talk to Fletcher Mackel about that at the end of the second hour today. He'll stop by at 8:30. A lot of good names jump out in that very good category as well.
Well, yeah, and this is why I can't put Brees in the great category, because right after you have great, and it's Alvin Kamara, Teron Armstead, Marshawn Lattimore, JT Gray, and Deontay Harris. And to me, Brees is a cut above those guys in terms of where they rank relative to their position. Kamara and Armstead have been excellent. They have the potential to be elite. I think injuries have held them back. Lattimore, same thing. Well, maybe not injuries. He just needs to be a bit more consistent. Deontay Harris had too many fumbles last season, but he obviously burst onto the scene. And then JT Gray, you're only going to care about if you care about special teams. And then you get into the very good category. We got Taysom Hill, Jared Cook, Emmanuel Sanders, Eric McCoy, Marcus Davenport. I'd probably bump him down. David Onyemata, Janoris Jenkins, Marcus Williams, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, and Justin Hardy. And Marcus Williams, the interesting one to highlight here, because I think you could put him in great. And I would describe Marcus Williams as suffering from what I would call O-line disease, where he does well 90% of the time, but you only remember him because of the bad plays because they've been on such big stages. The Minnesota Miracle's the obvious one, but even in the San Fran game last year, he had some bad breakdowns. But when you look at last season as a whole, I was shocked to read this morning. Pro Football Focus has him as the 38th best player in the NFL. Not at the position, not on defense, in the entire NFL. Marcus Williams ranks as the 38th best player. And when you look, he's got 10 picks over the last 3 years. That's more than any Saint had in the decade from 2010 to 2019. In fact, Eddie Jackson, the Bears safety, that just signed a 4-year, $58 million deal, set the market for safeties. He has 10 picks since 2017, right along with Marcus Williams. And so I think Williams actually probably deserves to be bumped up a tier. I'd put him in great. He just has to, try to avoid, like I said, nobody remember what I mean by O-line disease. Nobody remembers the O-lineman when they're doing their job 90% of the time. They remember when you give up a sack, or they remember when you jump off sides or commit a holding penalty. And that's what's affecting Williams right now. And as far as Marcus Davenport, I'd bump him down. And we'll get to a bit later in the show what I think about Janoris Jenkins, because he could be the key to making all of the Saints defense work. Janoris Jenkins ends up in that very good category. And I don't know that when you look at it, he's kind of bounced around the league recently. That might sound a bit surprising. And I do think that maybe Saints writers are a bit more bullish on him than the league as a whole. But there are numbers to back it up. He's good and aggressive man coverage, right? And he can shadow guys. And it's something that New York didn't ask him to do a lot. And arguably they weren't taking advantage of his skill set. And why Jenkins being in that very good category is interesting to me, because I think most would just put him in the good category. They'd bump him down one just because of, he hasn't been dominating. But why him being in that very good category is if he does truly belong there. And then you're looking at him potentially being the key to everything the Saints want to do defensively. You can hear Dennis Allen and Aaron Glenn talk about it. Last year, they had to rely on a bit more zone than they would ideally. They had to try to cover up some holes in coverage. Eli Apple, though he was better than people give him credit for, and though he was better than what the Saints have had, he was still a bit of a liability. Janoris Jenkins, I believe, is better than Eli Apple, and as we said, especially in that man coverage. So all of a sudden, if Lattimore gets back to elite status, which he is flirting with, and he's certainly capable of, and then you have Jenkins on the other side locking guys down, you can be super aggressive. You can start doing a lot more interesting things, like the ability to have two corners that you feel comfortable that have the skill set to shadow guys and to potentially, if not shut them down, to contain them. Then all of a sudden, you can get safeties more involved in the blitz. You can do interesting things coverage-wise, and it just frees up Dennis Allen in a lot of ways. So when you look at the Saints defense, I think about, okay, where are the points? Where are the points of leverage or the turning points that could decide? Because I think they'll be good no matter what. I think they have too much talent not to be. But what could push them into being one of the best defenses in the NFL? I look at, can Sheldon Rankins get back to where Rankins was before the Achilles? Because then you have a really good interior with him and Onyemata. And I would look at Marcus Davenport.
Definitely.
Can he be that complement opposite of Cam Jordan? If he is, then your D-line just looks damn strong. And then, and then there's Jenkins. Can he be better than Apple was? Can you rely on him to shadow people? And then you can allow Lattimore to get the best guy, Jenkins to get the second best guy, and you play that aggressive man coverage, and it frees up so much scheme-wise for Allen and that Saints defense. So there's just 3 areas to look at coming up this fall.